G'day growth group leaders. Welcome to the first of our series in Revelation chapter 6 through to 22. These videos I'm hoping they're going to be just short and helpful for you in preparing for each week. What I hope you do before you watch these videos is that you've read the passage, you've thought about it for yourself and marked it and done your own kind of thinking and research about it. You've had a look at the growth group study and thought about a couple of the questions, and then perhaps come here just to get my thoughts on what the questions were actually about and what we want to be focusing on each week. So this week we're doing Revelation chapter 4 and 5, and we're starting here because it's one of those level 1 visions. Do you remember from the growth group training that we had, we've got a series of visions, and level 1 visions are kind of like the defining visions. They're the controlling visions, and so that's why we want to start with chapter 4 and 5, because in a lot of ways, not just in a lot of ways, this actually is the defining vision of the book of Revelation. This helps you to see what is really going on, because it focuses in on Jesus, who is the Lion, who is the Lamb. Now we're doing both chapters because chapter 4 is like the stage and chapter 5 is the play itself, or the drama itself. Chapter 4 sets the scene, and chapter 5 brings the resolution, if you like. So just looking through the text first, chapter 4 is a heavenly scene, a heavenly throne room. Verse 1, the Apostle John's led to look through a door into heaven. So this is looking into ultimate reality, into spiritual realities. He's invited to come up and have a look at what's going to take place. And what he sees is a throne room. Now, how he describes that is using apocalyptic language, because what other words can you use to describe? And so, in a sense, he's scrambling for language to be able to describe how awesome it is, this thing that he sees. So he sees a throne room. We're told in verse 3 that there's one who sits on the throne that has the appearance of jasper and ruby and a rainbow. Now that just doesn't sound so fantastic perhaps to you or to me, but what helps you to see how awesome this figure is, God, who is sitting on the throne, is by everything that's arranged around him. So that's what happens from verse 4 onwards. There are 24 other thrones, there are 24 elders, they're dressed in white. There's flashes of lightning, rumbles of thunder, there's 7 lamps, there's 7 spirits of God, and then there is this great sea. Now, we're not going to get into the detail of all those. We did that last year. But the point is that God is awesome, and he is surrounded by the most powerful things in his creation. And the other thing to grab hold of is that he is unapproachable. There's a vast sea. There's peals of thunder and lightning. There's all these heavenly beings. The throne itself has 4 living creatures around it that are powerful and fast and all-seeing. And so God is unapproachable, which is why when you get to verse 8, only 2 times in the Bible are we told this, that day and night God is being worshipped, and he is the 3 times holy being. There's only one being that's talked of that way, and that's God. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. And he is worthy to receive, the second song, worthy to receive power and glory and honor, because he created everything. So this magnificent vision. So the stage is set, and then we go into chapter 5, and this figure, God, in his right hand has a scroll, which we'll find out later on is all of his purposes. It's written on both sides, which means it's complete, and it's sealed, and no one can open it. And that's why in verse 5 John weeps. And then in verse 6, in verse 5 he's told not to weep, because the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has triumphed. So notice there that this lion comes from the tribe of Judah, yet he is the root of David. He is the source of King David. In other words, he's a human king, but he is the one who is the king who established that line of kings in the first place. He's the Messiah. And he's triumphed. How did he triumph? Verse 6, he's a lamb. Now that contrast between 5 and 6 is really important, because it's not that Jesus seemed like a lion but was actually a lamb, or is a lion but looked a bit like a lamb. No, he's both. He is the lion who is the lamb. And if there's any interaction between those two, it is he is the lion because he was the lamb. He's triumphed because he was slain. In other words, what it's saying is that the cross, Jesus dying on the cross, is the great victory of God, and that establishes Jesus as King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the one who's able to open the scrolls. And so he does that, and everyone worships him. You are worthy is the first song. They sang a new song, which is to say that the event of the cross is so cataclysmic, so important, that heaven itself breaks out into a new song. This shows you that this is the center of reality. This is the key. This is the key to the book of Revelation. This is the key to life. This is the key to enduring. This is the key to being a Christian. This is a key to persevering as a Christian. And then everyone worships him. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and strength, in verse 12. So it's this magnificent picture. Just seeing how long I've gone for. So 3 minutes quickly, just on to the study. I started with a question, why be a Christian? There's lots of reasons why a person might be a Christian, but what this study will help us to see is that the reason to be a Christian is because Jesus is the King. He's the Lion who is the Lamb. He suffered and died for us, so there's forgiveness of sins. But ultimate reality is because God is God, and Jesus reveals God to us. Now, that's not going to come out at the start. It'd just be interesting to hear from the start why people are Christians, why they think it's important. It's not the kind of question I get everyone to answer, but just perhaps a couple. Why be a Christian? You'll get a few interesting responses. Just leave them and come back to them later. We move fairly quickly through this study. So the first two questions are all we ask on Revelation chapter 4. And the first question is just, my idea there is just to get people to reflect on which elements of that vision kind of speak to them, that stood out to them, and what is that saying about God? 4 living creatures that are really powerful. What is that saying about God? Well, it's saying that God is really powerful. So that's the purpose of question 1. Question 2, if you had to summarise the point of chapter 4, the kind of thing I'm imagining people should come up with is that God is awesome. God is powerful. He is the ultimate one. He is the King. He is the one who made all things. He is the only one who's worthy of worship. He is holy. Anything in that ballpark would be good. Then we read Revelation 5. Question 3, what's the problem? It's that the seal couldn't be opened. The seals couldn't be opened. The scroll couldn't be read. And so what's the solution? In verse 5, it's the lion. And then in question 5, question 5 gets you to think about that interaction between Jesus being the lion and the lamb. And I think that's just really important for people to get hold of as we come to the book of Revelation. Which is why then, just skipping further down into question 8, I think the other questions you should be right with. Question 8, think about the lion-lamb image. Which do you tend to resonate with? The idea there is that sometimes people want the victorious Jesus, who is the lion, who is going to make my life wonderful and great, and what they let go of is the importance of the cross and the place of suffering in the Christian life. That we are called to be ones who are to take up our cross and suffer with Jesus. That we live in the period now where Jesus is the King, but he's yet to come in power. And so we live in the period of time with Jesus as the Lion who is the Lamb, and we needed him to be the Lamb. So it's just getting people to reflect on that, but also to, if they err on the side of the Lamb, to recognise that Jesus is powerful. He is powerful over all things. He is the Lion. So that flows into question 9 with a discussion about why it's important to be clear about the fact that Jesus is both Lion and Lamb, because it helps us to have a rich, full picture that's being revealed to us from Scripture here about who Jesus is. And so part B of question 9, are there ways you sometimes diminish the victory of Jesus through the cross? Like, the kind of thing that can come out there is a person can think, my sins have been forgiven, done there, and I don't need the cross now. And yet what we need is we need Jesus the Lamb every day. We need his grace every day. Other ways that we can diminish the victory of Jesus over the cross is we can think that the cross was good for the forgiveness of sins, but it hasn't led to any other victory in my life. It hasn't led to me being able to learn to grow in righteousness and grace. And yet the victory of the cross and the grace that comes through that is what teaches me to live a godly life. So there's much that can come out of there, probably more than you could explore in a short time, but it's just good to get people thinking about, are they diminishing the cross and the victory of the cross in their life? Turning to 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 18 would be good at that point. And then just finishing up, how would this vision, question 10 is asking, how would this vision help the first readers who were persecuted? And my thinking there is that for them to know that Jesus really is the King, he's the one who can open the scroll, being reminded of that reality is so important when the chips are falling down around you, when things are going hard, when your marriage is under struggle, when you're faced with your own sin. You just need to know that Jesus is the King, who's the King who suffered and died for us. And then verse 13, the last question, what does verse 13 tell us about our purpose? Well, if every creature in heaven and earth is going to praise the Lamb, then that's our purpose here and now. And it's the same for the people around us who don't know Jesus. Hope that's helpful. Have fun. It's a great study. We'll see you. Bye.